Get into the Zen mode and be a RunMonker. So hi and welcome to RunMonks, the Zen mode for runners, a platform where we encapsulate, engage and collaborate with thought leaders, runfluencers and athletes from different walks of life and bring out engaging, thought-provoking and inspirational stories and best practices and tips which will enable you to be the better version of you. In today's episode, we'll be talking to a leader who's a passionate speaker, an executive coach, a trainer, an organizational consultant, and a culture strategist. And we have him on RunMonks today so that he could actually help us build some parallels from his leadership models into running. Please join me in welcoming the ever dynamic Viraj Kalra. Hi, Viraj, and welcome to RunMonks.
Hey, Kush, thank you so much for having me over. It's my pleasure to be here on RunMonks with you.
Fantastic. So I've been following quite a bit of your running journey on social media, and very inspiring to say the least, and really excited and glad to actually have you on board with RunMonks. It would be a really interesting 15-20 minutes of conversation with you, which will actually sort of bring out some great insights and tips for maybe aspiring runners, or maybe runners who want to maybe hone their performance a little bit from a mindset standpoint or from a physical standpoint. So Viraj, with that in mind, my first question to you would be, what really inspired you into getting the sport of running, right? So, and how could you sort of build the parallels from a leadership standpoint into running in any way?
Right. So, interestingly, Kush, for me, running happened because of work. It happened because I'm a coach. I think if I'd not been a coach, I'd probably never taken on running. And to cut the long story short in a nutshell, I went entrepreneurial in 2010. The last time I did anything which could be called a physical sport was in maybe 1998.
Wow.
Yeah. And from 98 till 2010, all I did was run behind targets. That's the only running I did.
Yeah.
And 2010, when I went entrepreneurial, I was at 116 kgs. And one of the
Wow.
things that I told myself was, I was at 112 kgs in 2000.
Wow.
And I told myself that now that you're going entrepreneurial, you have your own life, you'll create your own work-life balance. You're no more reporting into a boss. You're not answerable to anybody. So now start prioritizing your fitness. And I did what you do, usually when you start on the fitness journey. I did a little bit of dieting. I used to do something called a formality, which is a walk. And I say, hey, I'm walking.
Mm-hmm.
In about a year's time, 2011, when I went back on the weighing scale, from 112, I'd moved up to 116.
Wow.
So that was like a big slap on my face. I said, hey, listen, you said you're going to prioritize your fitness, but instead of losing weight, you actually gained weight. So for everybody who has this excuse that I don't have the time because I'm constantly working and I will do it when I make more time, never happens. You have to make that time now, right?
Yeah.
And I still didn't get it. I keep saying that unless that why gets answered, you don't do anything.
Yeah.
And my why finally got answered when on one of the pitch meetings for a coaching training assignment, in feedback, in a candid feedback, one of the people who was on the other side and was a friend of mine told me that the reason you didn't crack it is because your ideas were brilliant, your pricing was competitive, everything was great about your proposal, other than you. So, if you're going to lead people into transformation journeys, they want to see you transform as well.
Yeah.
How are you going to manage to coach if you can't manage your own self? And I realized, hey, listen, it's part of first impression, it's part of executive presence. I teach this to people, so I got to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
And that's when I took to running. And there's been no looking back. This happened in 2011 end, sometime
Yeah.
around October, November.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think between 2011 and 2013, I lost a sizable amount of weight. I went from 116 to 76 kgs.
Wow.
I did. And all thanks to running. And I quit smoking earlier this year in April.
Mm-hmm.
That's another story. We'll keep it for another day. And because of quitting smoking, I went cold turkey, and you know how it is. I made craving initially, and then the lockdown. So I've put back on about 7-8 kgs, but I've now gone back to running with a vengeance. I've doubled my targets on running. So that's where I am. That's the story, Kush.
Fantastic. Very, very inspiring to say the least. Really, sort of getting goosebumps from 116 to 75 is quite a journey. Awesome. Fantastic. Now, can we actually get into a little bit of nitty gritties? You actually are a coach yourself and you actually train a lot of executives, right? So, how different is, running as a mix in terms of the physical and the mental aspects, and how could you sort of draw some parallels from a leadership aspect and getting that into running from a mindset perspective?
So, Kush, think about it that um, we've been hit by what people call the new normal, right?
Yep.
Although I still believe that what we are living through is the new abnormal. The new
Yep.
normal will shape up in a bit.
Yep.
But one thing is clear that there are a lot of new skills that this new world requires from us.
Mm-hmm.
Even this interface, for example,
Yep.
a lot of corporate executives, this does not come very easily.
Mm-hmm.
They've not done before. They're wary of. This is outside their comfort zone. I know of a lot of Indian executives, by the way, who are at the helm of affairs of a $500,000 or $500 million company, but they have never sent an email.
Hmm.
Operate their own laptops. They have the fanciest Apple machines lying on their desk, but they've never operated it. Right? They have a secretary or a PA or an EA who does it for them. But for the first time, in the first few weeks of lockdown, when your PA and EA could not come to you and you could not go to them, you had no choice but to stretch yourself and go out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And this is just one example. There are some 8 different new skills which I think we are all learning in the new normal. And I think the people who are able to learn new skills more effectively are the ones who, in any case in life, have been used to of challenging themselves.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that in whichever arena you challenge yourself, it has a positive repercussion, a ripple effect in all arenas.
Yeah.
So for example, when I took on running, it did wonders for my overall sense of confidence and motivation,
Hmm.
self-belief. It,
Yep.
it broke a lot of myths for me, and I realized that, hey, listen, actually, maybe anything is possible. For the
Hmm.
first time, that thought, even on the balance sheet, happened to me because of what I did on the running field. Anything is possible. So I really think that the big parallel that I'm able to draw is that if you're pushing your boundaries in one arena or in one sphere, it helps you push boundaries in all other spheres. There are people who do phenomenally well at business, and because of that spirit of competitiveness or that ambition that they have in the boardroom, they're able to carry that also into the tennis court or on the golf course or into the running track,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So I think that go getting, challenging yourself, growth mindset, which this new normal requires, there are so many of those parallels between what you do on the running track and what you do at work. Just so many parallels. Stretching yourself being, I think, on top of the list.
Fantastic. I think I like the, going outside the comfort zone aspect that you actually spoke about. That's actually one of my favorites. Always like to, push yourself beyond, the conservative normal that you actually are used to.
Right.
Fantastic. Very profound. Kudos. Love the analogy, love the parallels that you actually sort of drew from a leadership perspective. Now, from an achievement standpoint, you actually started your running journey in 2010, 11, as you actually spoke. From a memory or an achievement perspective, do you remember any sort of run which has been the most memorable for you, maybe in terms of your personal best, or any run that you love the most? I love the Airtel Delhi half marathon. I believe you're from Delhi, right? And I can really vouch for the ADHM any. So any memories or any achievements
So
from?
it's very interesting. I've only run 2 half marathons so far.
Mhm, mhm.
One was the CRPF half marathon, which also happens in Delhi,
Yeah,
and the other one is the ADHM, which of course happens in Delhi as well, which we were
yeah.
just speaking about. And I remember that. So I have a friend. We call him Superman. His name is Sanjeev, and Sanjeev is like he was born in the mountains. I call him a mountain goat other than Superman. He can run the whole day and not
Mhm,
get tired, and he runs some crazy averages. I mean, he can wake up hungover one morning and start running and beat the pants out of all of us.
yeah.
But so he's one of those, and he was always running the half marathon.
Mhm,
And I just took to running. And this is the time when I was still kind of struggling to get to the 5 kilometer at a stretch mark.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that why don't you at least come in and do the 10K that happens at, as one of those runs that happens as a run up to ADHM.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, sure, that'll be a stretch for me. And I realized that 10 kilometers happened in a jiffy. And then I said, then I should have actually enrolled myself for the half marathon, because if I can do a 10, then how much of a stretch will it be to double it plus a few?
Yeah.
And then next year, of course, then I, enrolled for the ADHM. And I think that for me, in a lot of ways, was a defining moment. I have not gone back to running in a half marathon because I promised myself that I'm going to beat the number that I have in mind before I go back in and make it a recorded number.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm getting to that fitness level. And that's the other, if you say memorable in terms of achievement, I think that's happening now for the first time after so many years of running. After running at an average of about 6.3 to 6.5,
Mm-hmm.
this year, once I quit smoking, and this is for everybody out there who, like me, for so many years has run smoking and running simultaneously. I'm not very proud of it, Kush, but in the CRPF half marathon, actually, sometime during the marathon and sometime during the run, I stopped and I smoked a cigarette
Mm.
and continued the run. Yeah, I've
Not
done
good.
that. I've on a many 5 kilometer run taken a break for a few minutes to have a quick few puffs and continued running again, and told myself, hey, listen, you're all right. You're Superman yourself because you can smoke and you can run. But what a myth and how it breaks in your head when you see it happening to yourself. I quit smoking. Now, whether it is psychological or it is physiological, I just immediately started running faster. For the first time, I came to under 6. I'm doing an easy 5.5 practically on every 10-kilometer run right now. And the idea, of course, is to take it down to 5 now, which is what I'm grappling with. But when I saw that 5.5 on my 10-kilometer run, is when I said, hey, listen, actually anything is possible. Quitting smoking is possible,
Yeah.
running faster is possible. And to be able to beat all of that at the 43 that I am by itself is a good high.
Absolutely. I totally go by that. Fantastic. So, first of all, kudos for you, for quitting smoking. Somewhere we actually sort of resonate there as well. So that is where
Right.
my running journey also began. So
Right.
fantastic. And, keep at it, right? So that's important. So from a mental and physical aspect, Viraj, so how do you sort of prepare for a run? I think it'll be very interesting to, get some insights there.
I believe that anything in life, right, which is a stretch, which is a goal, which is a target, you got to manifest it. You got to make it real. And one of the best ways of manifesting anything or making it real is to create the equivalent of a vision board.
Yep.
So the time I started creating vision boards for my professional targets, and the time I started suggesting a vision board to my, team first, and then to the folks who coach with me, I realized that it is something which works wonders because it really helps you visualize and manifest.
Yep.
It's a visual target to go after. And I say that you've got to wire it in then you have to booby trap your day with that vision board. Because see, if it is only in my background, chances are that you looking at it more often than I do. It has to be in my foreground.
Yep.
And it has to be on my screensaver on my laptop. It has to be on my phone every time it rings. When I set that alarm for 5 a.m. for a run at 5 a.m., it should show me a visual there that makes me want to get up from the bed. So I think that somewhere your ability to prep with visualizing what you want to achieve makes it come true faster, quicker, more potently. So even with the run, I think at some point I started using this app called Endomundo.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I love the app because the free version is brilliant, but even the paid version is great because it gives you a lot of stats. Any of these apps is great, but I started using Endomundo. And what I realized is that, you're able to keep yourself challenged that much more because you're tracking now every run, you're tracking every average. So the documentation,
Yeah.
for me, that's the biggest part of the prep. A lot of people say, hey, listen, why do you need to switch on the app every time you run? I say, because, when I look back at it a month down the line, I know how many runs I've done. I
Yep.
know what I'm averaging. I know what number I have to beat. And when you have a number to beat, it is very concrete. So
Yeah.
that's my prep. that it has to be a very well articulated goal. Even in the boardroom, each time somebody comes and tells me this is what we want to achieve vaguely over the next 5 years, I show them two middle fingers. I said, that is very vague.
Yeah.
Give me something extremely specific that you will go out there and make smithereens out of.
Mhm.
Has to be a very specific target. So for me, that's a big part of any kind of prep, including the run.
Fantastic. Now, from a rapid fire perspective, so the next 6 questions would be rapid fire for you, and you need to answer that in maybe one word or maybe a couple of words, not more. So,
I'm sure this round has been made particularly for me because you are saying, hey, Viraj, your answers are too long. Now cut it down to one word.
not at all, not at all. You articulate things really well, right? So, you can't undermine yourself for that. So, you're really good at talking. Yeah. So, your favorite athlete or runner?
Uh, can I go with a tribe? There's not one person, but I like what the Raramuris do. I want to be able to do what the Raramuris do. I want to be able to run for 48 hours at a stretch at some point in life.
Wow, that's interesting. And never ever have I heard somebody talk about that. So that's one of its kind. Fantastic. Your preferred brand of shoes?
Asics. I've tried everything else, but they just hug you.
Yeah, nice. Your preferred brand of attire on race days and practice runs?
Um, a technical brand that holds you in good stead on practice runs, I think, is Decathlon because you can use it as roughly as you want to. And I
Yeah.
do a lot of dirt running. And in dirt running, you're scratching, every thing that you're wearing. So I don't mind, a decathlon getting spoiled every other day. But when I'm doing a run that really matters, I go back to Nike. And I think it's the philosophy more than the fabric that appeals to me.
I'm with you on that. So your preferred wearable and devices, you did speak about the apps that you use, but yeah, any wearables that you actually sort of prefer?
Yeah. So, I don't know how it works for other runners, but for me, music is extremely important.
Yeah.
And I've tried all formats of devices, but the only thing that sits well with me is the Bose Sound Sport. I haven't come across anything better than that. I don't remember the last time I did this because with every other device, I'm constantly doing this. I'm running,
Mhm.
and then the one hand is constantly
Yeah.
fiddling with one ear to get it right.
Yeah.
With the Bose, you put it on and you can forget it. There
Yeah.
are times when I've forgotten it. I finished the run, everything is over and done with, and it still continues because it just sits.
Yeah.
Which in a run is very important, right? For it to just sit without moving. So yeah, that's the only variable that I use and I swear by.
Nice. From a music standpoint, you did mention you're a music person. So any favorite playlist of yours that you would want to maybe talk about?
EDM, anything which is EDM. I like intermittent speed as far as
Yeah.
running is concerned, and EDM does that with every track, right? It
Yeah.
builds up. So when it
Yes.
is building up, I'm a little slower, and when it gets faster, I try to match that beat, and it works psychologically. It just works well. So EDM.
So any nutritional supplements or hydration packs that you actually prefer?
Yeah. I have never gone that route, probably because I don't really do back to back too many long runs,
Hmm.
unlike the beautiful medals that are hanging in your background. So I think I haven't yet needed it. There will come a time maybe I'd, consult somebody like you who knows more about it. The only two things that I do before a big run, of course, is one is beetroot juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely works brilliantly for me. Another is what all of us probably do before a big run is do as much of carb as
Yeah.
possible. So the equivalent of a pasta or whatever else works, pizza, whatever else works for you as carb.
Yeah.
Other than that, I haven't done anything special for a run so far.
Works. So really looking forward to maybe working together and catching up on one of the full marathons, maybe the Mumbai Marathon whenever it
Inshallah,
happens. Yeah.
inshallah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So the next segment is more to do with suggesting upcoming runners to sort of enhance their performance. It could be gear related primarily. You did speak about what you sort of prefer, but yeah, so we could actually go a little more in detailing on that. So if I were to be maybe a novice runner or an amateur runner, that would definitely require some recommendation and directions in terms of the gears to really choose. So what would the gears really be? What kind of shoes to look forward to, and what wearables to wear, right? And what supplements to take? If you could sort of articulate that, that would be great.
Right. So I think for me, there are three big ones, and they come from personal experience. One is that I didn't know it till I had it. There is something called TMJ. It's a syndrome where if there is a sudden change in temperature, some of us have these nerve endings in our ears, especially around our ENT area, which are connected to our sinuses. And in some cases, these nerve endings are very raw and they're very externalized. They're not towards the inside of your ear, they're towards the outside of your ear. So small changes in temperature, and you get the equivalent of giddiness or nausea or a severe headache, and you have no choice, or vertigo. Actually, what I get is very close to a vertigo. So I have no choice but to lie down on the ground. And unless I lie down on the ground, I don't feel better. And I have to be on the ground for a good 1 or 2 minutes before I start feeling better again. It's very sickening. And I love running, and I love running usually early mornings or, once the sun is set. And Delhi does get cold, right?
Yeah.
And the colder it gets, the more TMJ happens for me. And I run outdoors. I can't run indoors for the life of me. So that's when for the first time I started using earmuffs. Didn't work for me. Earmuffs and headphones under it did not work. And then I found that the sleeve works wonders. So I've picked up my first sleeve from Decathlon, and I've now got a few of them from every other brand. And the sleeve is just so versatile, right? It is just so agile. It can fit in like a bandana. You can cover your ears. If it is too cold, you can go turtleneck with it. So you can wear it from your neck up to your ears. On very, very cold days, sometimes you want to cover your cheeks as well, but you don't want the whole hoodie happening. And so it works wonders even for that. Because I tried the hoodie too. A lot of runners do well with the hoodie, you snug in. But for me, for some reason, that did not work too well. So the sleeve is one which I think for people who are running in cold, and again, you have fleece as well as you have, you know, like part cotton, part man-made fabric, like a nylon put together. So it's stretchable, a little bit of lycra in it. But even for colder weather, that fleece works extremely well. Very versatile. I love that one thing. The second one for me is the shoe. And I struggled for a long, long time to get the right shoe. I am definitely flat footed, and as flat footed as it gets. So, which means that there were very, very often times when, even on a 3-4 kilometer run, I would come back agonized and I wouldn't know why so much agony. And then somebody said flat foot. I said, okay, I got it tested. Yes, flat foot, as flat as can be. So then a technical shoe comes in, and I, tried. I wouldn't name the brands, but I tried everything on the planet. Some of the best for flat-footed runners. Nothing worked for me. Finally, there's one particular Asics shoe which had its middle carved in. So which means the middle was about that much above the rest of it. Yeah. So in the middle, it kind of almost goes up 90 degrees. And this guy swore by it at the ASICS shop, and he said that you've got to try this. And he said, you take it. If it does not work for you, bring it back and I'll exchange it for you. I said, if somebody's saying it with that much confidence, the least I can do is try it out, right? And I did, and there's been no looking back. So I really think the shoe makes a whole lot of difference psychologically as well. When you know that you're wearing that shoe that's going to keep you intact, you just kind of let go that much more easily. So that's the second one for me as far as the wearables go. And a third one is, again, so what you see in the backdrop here, this is Norway. Not my pictures, I haven't taken them. But some of my best runs have been in the mountains. I love the mountains. And the first time I ran in the mountains was when we were on a road trip. We were all boys and just taken to running. And we were on a 18-day road trip from Delhi to what is the last spot that just before Kanyakumari? Kumarakam.
Yeah.
Kumarakam. So Delhi to Kumarakam is what we were doing on road, and I'd just taken to running, so I didn't want a break. So wherever we were halting for the night, I would just go out and run. And so I ran on roads, I ran everywhere, roadside, anywhere. And we were in Ooty, and that's the first time I started running on a uphill track. And it's just such an adrenaline rush, when you're kind of going 40 degrees constantly for about 500, 600 meters, and when your calves and your hamstrings start telling you, what the heck are you doing, you've never done this before. It's just a great feeling. So I love running in immense cold weather. I haven't done it yet in snow. I'm waiting to make that happen. But I say that you got to have your special gear, your kit ready for that. And again, this onesie, there's a onesie with a hoodie which kind of just snugs you in and insulates you just so beautifully thin, but it is just so fantastic for a winter run. You feel like you're running in a vest, but it is nice and warm. So I say they invest in a onesie and go running in the cold. It's the most beautiful thing you can do for yourself. So those
Wow.
are three for me.
I haven't done that, so I'm certainly going to, give it a try for sure.
Right.
So the next one, Viraj, more or less again aligned to the leadership and coaching principles. I'm going to ask you 10 tips for runners, again, rapid fire, to inspire them and to make them race ready to improve their performance. Again, your coaching and your leadership hat back on.
I say read a lot.
Yeah.
Even if you're a runner, read a lot. There's a lot that you pick up on technique that you don't realize unless you read. For example, I was talking about Raramuri. I think Born to Run is one book that all runners should read at least once, if not
Yeah.
more than that. So that's one. Second for me is have a model, have a framework. Um, I have a model which I've made for coaching business leaders, but I think it works well even if you're coaching as an athlete. I know Agassi did something similar for himself. Um, I call it I am, I can, I will. It's part of my vision boarding. So I say that, write down where you are today, write down where you want to go, and then put a smart goal to it. So your ability to put a timeline and pushing yourself for that timeline. So that's the second big one for me. Third one for me is that you got to not get comfortable with whatever you think is the top speed that you achieved as a runner. It's surprising. There are a lot of people I meet who say, "Hey, listen, I run an easy 5 kilometer and I've been doing it for years." I said, "But then what about the sixth and the seventh kilometer?" And they said, "Nahi, yaar, panch theek hai na. It's doing me well. I'm fit. I'm all right." I said, "But then that's not running. That's like the most boring life you can ever lead. How can you stop at five?"
Yeah.
I'm not saying take it up to a 500, but that's the third one that you gotta keep challenging. Fourth one, sorry, you gotta keep challenging yourself. No, otherwise, where's the fun? Fifth is what you're doing, and I think the equivalent of that you need to keep doing with every big run, whether it is casual running, amateur running, or professional running. There needs to be an artifact which is associated with it. And the artifact is a big reminder of what you've achieved. It can be a medal, it can be a piece of iron, it can be a straw of grass that you put in a tube. But one of my best runs, for example, was so you're running in the badlands or running on dirt tracks, or running in the wilderness is something that really appeals to me. We were at Jodhpur, and Jodhpur there is a beautiful fort called Fort Palace Resort called Balsamand. And I didn't know that the Balsamand Lake behind it is badlands for miles. And when I say badlands, it's rocky, it's rugged. There is absolutely zero greenery on it. And me and Superman, this friend of mine, Sanjeev, we were on that holiday together with our families. And we just woke up in the morning and we ran. We didn't even know what the distance on it is. And we just kept running. And it was one of the most tiresome runs I've ever had. But the scenery was spectacular. It was like running on another planet because it's just such a different landscape. So I remember when I finished that run, I literally picked up one pebble and I put it in a test tube in a cord, and I still have it. So that's where my habit of creating artifacts on every big run has come from. And now I have about 15, 16 of those. I'll just pick up something, put a date on it, and store it. So that's the fifth one. Reward yourself with something which becomes a memorabilia from your big runs, right? Sixth is don't give up. Don't give up. I mean, look at me, and I'm sure that that's the story of many runners. I was a smoker, heavy smoker when I started running, right? In Delhi, back then, I used to live in a place called Defense Colony. Defense Colony is a very sleepy South Delhi neighborhood where, and I used to go running in the evening. So I went to this park 7 p.m. It was drizzling a little, and that's the first run that I thought I'm going to do. I ran. And obviously, then when you're running for the first time in many, many years, you don't know what is your speed. So you end up at times running much faster than you should. 300 meters, I was down on my knees. I was searching for my phone because I wanted to call up my wife and tell her, I think I'm getting a heart attack. And there's nobody here. So I'm keeping you informed that you may want to come and look me up, right? So from those 300 meters to many a half marathons, it's a possible journey. It's a very doable journey. At that point in time, you feel it's not going to happen. But you can't give up because it happens. You just have to keep going at it. And that applies to anything in life, not just running. It applies to anything in life. Just don't give up, however daunting it may seem. So that's the sixth one. I wouldn't go to a 10. I know I'm consuming too much of your time, but I'll go to a seventh, which according to me is the big one. And I spoke about it. I'm speaking about it again. But it makes a big difference with things like running. Right now, I've just given myself a challenge of, so numeric. I was talking about a numeric visual, right? I said put that numeric visual into even your running. It could be 500 meters. Surrey Fort is where I do a lot of my running in Delhi. Surrey Fort Sports Complex. And Surrey Fort Sports Complex is about a 1.3 kilometer circuit. I've realized that when I'm running on that circuit, I can run my 5, 6, 7, 8 kilometers without really feeling it. When I'm on a smaller circuit, if I'm doing a 500 meters, circuit, I know that I get tired quicker because psychologically you've taken that many more rounds of the same place. But when I say, Viraj, you're going to go from Delhi to Gurgaon running, I can keep running and it does not matter. I can just keep going on. So I said, don't get into that rat race. Don't be on that rat's wheel. Get out of running like this. A lot of people are still running like this. You got to run like that. You got to keep running like that. When you keep running like that with a huge target, the bigger the target, the more the run that comes out of you. So get that number right. Don't limit yourself to the number of 5 kilometers. Say I have to run 50 kilometers today, chances are you'll run 40, if not 50. Although chances are you'll run the whole 50. So that's the big one for me. Don't take on a small target.
Fantastic, lovely. I haven't really heard the articulation to such level of detailing and storytelling also sort of blending in. Really loved it. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So next couple of ones, and then we sort of wrap up your future running goals.
A full marathon, that's definitely on the card. I would be too foolhardy to not do a full marathon and say ultra straight away, but a full marathon. And I don't want to do one of those virtual ones. Like you're saying, I really hope that the Standard Chartered Bombay is what happens very quickly because I think that's the nearest I can go to a full marathon right now. But that's definitely what my big goal right now is.
Fantastic.
And I want to be able to achieve that in 2021, early 2021.
One final one. We've actually sort of heard so much of wisdom from you, and this is going to be really. I'm actually curious to understand what is going to come out. A success mantra for the audience to take away.
I'm a big fan of a quote that I don't know occurred to me while traveling one day. That check out life before life checks you out. Because I think I'm checking in and checking out of hotels all the time. Throughout my life, I've just lived so much in hotels that I'm standing at a checkout counter either for an airline or a hotel all the time. So, for me, it's very important to keep reminding myself that it can all end tomorrow. It can all end right now, right? So you got to check out life before life checks you out. So all of these goals that we keep making, but we don't do anything about them. I mean, if it means that if you're listening to this right now, and if it inspires you to say, hey, listen, I'm going to go running tomorrow. I say, screw you if you're going to do it tomorrow. Go now.
Yeah.
Who knows what tomorrow, yeah? It has to be now. So that's the big one for me.
That's a very profound statement to make. Thank you so much for your time today at RunMonks and sharing some great insights and best practices, great storytelling, great articulation. Loved your parallels with the leadership and the coaching aspects that you actually sort of bring out. And this is actually going to help many of us to actually sort of take up running and get into the Zen mode. Thank you so much, Viraj.
Kush, thank you so much for having me over. It's been brilliant talking with you, and I look forward to a lot more. Keep doing the brilliant work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.